One of the other areas where we're seeing collection of data, I mean, it just would boggle your mind. We're not talking about just one program. We're talking about dozens of programs the government has instituted to look at your stuff. There's another group called EPIC, Electronic Privacy Information Center, and they talk about suspicious activity reports. These are reports that your bank has to file whenever you deal in cash at the bank. There's certain dollar limits. And they think, well, gosh, someone is probably a bad person if they're putting $9,500 in cash in the bank. Well, it turns out a lot of honest, law-abiding people do that. Not too long ago, there was a Korean husband and wife. They owned a grocery store. They dealt in a lot of cash, and they were very successful, and they deposited 3 times a day over $9,000, $8,000 to $10,000. They tried to stay under $10,000 because there was all kinds of extra paperwork if you were over $10,000. And so what the government said is, oh, you're structuring your deposits to evade the people. You must be guilty of something. The government then can accuse people of a crime and take their stuff. There's something called civil asset forfeiture. It doesn't require that you be convicted. It doesn't even require that you be accused of something. There was a story not too long ago in Philadelphia, Christos Sorovelos, and the teenager was selling drugs out of the back of the parents' house. So they caught the kid, and they were punishing him, but they decided they'd punish the parents too. So they confiscated the parents' house, evicted the family. So teenager makes a mistake selling drugs. What does the government do? They take the parents' house. You think that's going to help the kid or help anybody get better in this situation by taking the house? But here's the rub. Kid didn't even have to be convicted of anything. The kid didn't own the house. He was just their kid. If we allow all kinds of data to be out there to catch people, and then we're not even going to require that you're convicted of a crime before we take your stuff, you can see the danger of allowing so much data to be collected. But we are currently convicting and taking people's stuff or their money simply based on what they're using it for. The Washington Post did a series of articles on this. Turns out that most people having their stuff taken are poor, often African American, often Hispanic, but for the most part, poor. One guy was here in Washington, had $10,000, and he was going to buy equipment like a refrigerator or a commercial oven or something for his restaurant. They just stopped him and took his money. It took him years to get it back, and he only got it back because the Institute for Justice defended him in getting it back. But it turns justice on its head because he was basically considered to be guilty until he could prove himself innocent. Realize then that people like this are sometimes being picked up because of something called suspicious activity reports. Suspicious activity reports make your bank into a policeman or a policewoman. When you deposit things, they are obligated to report you to the police, to the government. Does it sound something like 1984? Does it sound like when you have informants out there everywhere, see something, say something, that your banker is going to call the government if you put cash into the bank? The burden should always be on the government to prove that you're guilty of something. You should never be convicted. You should never be punished without there first being a trial, without there first being evidence, without there first being a trial with a lawyer.